Hi, I'm Dr. Sukli Liu, and I'm an associate professor at the University of Southern California, and I'm one of the directors of the ReproRehab Educational Research Program. We are so excited to welcome all of you to ReproRehab, and in this video, I just wanted to give you a brief introduction to what ReproRehab is, how it got started, and how we hope that it will continue to evolve. So briefly, ReproRehab, or the concepts for it, I think, started probably back in 2019 when Dr. James Finley, Dr. Keith Lowe's, and myself put on a symposium for the American Society of Neurorehabilitation. The symposium was entitled Reproducibility and Reliability in Rehabilitation Research. It's a mouthful. And we basically gave people hands-on workshops to use Python for data management, MATLAB for data analysis, and R for data visualization, essentially giving them a brief insight into how they could use some of these programming tools in order to improve the reproducibility of their research. After that course, a lot of people came up to us and said, wow, I really loved what you shared. I really want to apply it to my research, but honestly, I have no idea where to even start. And that, I think, planted the initial seed for what is now ReproRehab. A year later, in 2020, I was accepted as a fellow of ReproNIM, which is the Center for Reproducible Neuroimaging Computation. And that center is led in part by Dr. David Kennedy and Dr. J.B. Pauline, as well as other colleagues. And as a fellow for that center, I got the opportunity to learn about reproducibility in neuroimaging, and I was asked to essentially train other people in how to apply reproducible methods to their own research. So ReproNIM employed the train-the-trainer model, which I really love, and I feel like is essentially, I call it the best possible use for a Ponzi scheme, in that you're training people how to teach other people about reproducibility. So it's essentially a Ponzi scheme where the transfer is of knowledge. So what better possible use than that? And so with the train-the-trainer model, they taught us as fellows about reproducible neuroimaging, and then we each created our own workshops or courses on reproducibility to teach to our local communities. And in my case, as a faculty member, I was able to actually put together a course, an elective course for the occupational therapy students at my division and university on how to essentially do beginner intro to programming and intro to programming tools. So in that course, I taught occupational therapy students most of whom had never touched a program before or written a line of code. I taught them a little bit about how to program in Python, and also a little bit about other random fun things like Arduinos and programming games and apps and things like that would be useful for for clinicians, essentially. And in that process, I also realized and learned kind of what types and how much hands-on help is required when you're first learning. And so if any of us that now program a bit, think back to how we learn to program, it's usually through a formal course where you have a TA who can help you when you get stuck. Or for myself, and I think a lot of people in the rehab community, we just learn once we join a lab and they say you're going to need to program, and a senior lab member gives you a code or some scripts that have been handed down from lab member to lab member and tells you to try to modify some part of it. And then you spend hours and hours on Google and Stack Overflow trying to find answers. And that's essentially how you learn, or at least for me, that's how I learned. And I think one of the things that I hope we can do in building this ReproRehab community is share a little bit about how each of us has learned, because I think there's a lot of feelings of imposter syndrome, and that other people must know more than me, or other people must do this better than me, when in fact, I think that's just not the case. And if you're trying and you're doing things in a functional way, I'm sure that each person has domain expertise and knowledge about how to do things that everyone else can learn from, and vice versa. But anyways, that was a tangent. All that just to say that in the process of being a ReproNIM fellow, I saw how valuable the model of the train-the-trainer idea was, and I also got a firsthand experience with how we can teach people entry-level programming skills, and what types of hands-on assistance could be useful and needed. And so putting that all together, my colleagues and I, James, Keith, Dave, and JB, decided to pool all of our efforts together and create what is now known as ReproRehab, or reproducible rehabilitation research. And so this is an educational training program, and the overall goal is to teach rehabilitation researchers how to apply programming to their own research to improve the overall reproducibility of it. And I should say it's not just programming, it's also data science skills, aspects of open science and the open science community, and version control, and so much more. So we set up this program, and the basic idea and the basic target audience was initially for people who have absolutely no experience programming. They've never written a code of programming in their life. They've never written a line of code in their life, and that just want to get started. And so what we set up was an initial 8-week boot camp where they will be assigned to pods of just 2 or 3 learners with 1 TA. And that way the TA can provide hands-on help for troubleshooting, not just helping each person with troubleshooting, but I think what also is really helpful is when people see other people troubleshoot, because it helps you to understand, like, oh, I'm not the only person that Googles and looks up on Stack Overflow how to do things and tries a solution and it doesn't work and has to go back to the drawing board. That, as far as I know, never ends. That's like an ongoing process forever. You just become more efficient at knowing which Google search terms to put in and which kind of answers that you find on Stack Overflow are likely to work for your particular case. But anyways, so that's the initial program design, is that for the first 8 weeks, we would take people who have never written a line of code before and put them in these pods so that they could learn how to get started, and essentially respond to that initial comment, like, I want to start, but I don't know where to start. And so giving people the support, the really hands-on support to do that. And then in a 4-month period after that, hopefully after the 8 weeks, they have enough skills and enough confidence and know how to be able to troubleshoot their own problems. And then in the following 4 months, it's more self-guided learning where they use courses that are already available either from Coursera or Neurohackademy or Brain Hacks or all sorts of different online resources with really great tutorials. They can learn things that are domain specific to whatever their research needs are and start to actually apply these skills into their research while still having some hands-on support through office hours and accessibility to the TA community as well as the leadership team. So that was the overall kind of goal that we set out for, and the reason we built the program the way that we did. Then this past summer, we launched the program and applications, and we were so excited and a little bit bewildered, to be honest, to find that we were getting applications from amazing researchers, both some who had never programmed before and some who had actually quite a lot of programming experience. And in a lot of cases, I feel like maybe more than myself or other members of the leadership team even. And what was really exciting to us was that these people we kind of call them advanced learners at this point, but they have a lot of the technical skills for programming, but they were really curious and wanted to learn more about open science and about reproducible methods and reproducible pipelines and how to apply all of those concepts to their own work. And so we are really excited about this initial class. I have to say at this point, because this video is gonna go on YouTube and maybe live on in perpetuity. So I have to say, I have no idea how this program will evolve or continue to evolve, but I'm sure that it will, because the community that we've kind of gotten to assemble so far is already so amazing, and everyone has so many amazing ideas. And we're just really excited to grow this program together with all of you. I also want to say just a few tips about maybe how to get the most out of this program. We built it, we debated between doing this as an online program versus an in-person program, but because we developed it during COVID and we didn't know kind of what the future of in-person meetings was going to look like, and we did know that we could do a lot of this remotely, we decided to do it as a remote virtual program. But that said, I think one of the difficulties or challenges that many people face when doing remote learning is I guess, actually making themselves do the lessons and set aside the time. So I would encourage you, if you're embarking on the ReproRehab program as a learner, whether you're doing it as an official learner with us through a cohort, or you're doing it on your own, you found the program and the videos and you wanted to give it a shot, I would really encourage you to block off time on your calendar. Ideally, a few hours. I know for some people that can be a really big ask. But when you're learning new things like this, it's great to have a few hours of concentrated time so that if you need to troubleshoot, if something goes wrong, you have time to just sit and think through some of the difficulties and find a solution. So my challenge to each of you is to block off a few hours on your calendar. That is your ReproRehab time each week. And to really protect that time. I think we all block off the time, but then people ask for meetings or people want to do this or that, and we give it up. So block it off, protect it. And that's, I think, how you will have the best chance of moving forward. And then also, whether you're doing this with a pod or you're doing this with your lab mates or some other way, I encourage you to find at least one or two other people to talk to about this, to keep each other accountable, to share what you're learning, and to share what frustrations or I guess, bugs you may encounter, only because it is such a universal process that we all experience frustrations and have to troubleshoot as we program and as we apply new things to our research. And I think a lot of people, especially if you're new to the area, may not know that and may feel like, oh, it's just me having all these problems, but that's just not true. So I think being able to talk to other people and realize, oh, everybody is having these troubleshooting issues, or everybody is, like getting stuck on different things, and that you will know the answers to some things that can help other people, and they will know the answers to some things that can help you. I think that's just a huge part of moving forward with applying data science to your own research. So with that, hopefully I've given you a little bit of a peek of where I think we're going to go and how we, I think, have already started to evolve. I will also say another part of ReproRehab that we're doing is what we're calling ReproRehab DB, or ReproRehab database. It is a searchable website where we're uploading all possible data science courses for rehab researchers. Well, they're general courses, of course, but we have tried to curate them so that if you are a rehab researcher and wanting to know where do I get started if I want to learn Python, or I want to learn more about R, or I want to learn about mixed methods or kinematic analysis, etc., hopefully you can search the website and it can give you some course examples. It also tells you the estimated length of time of the course, as well as the estimated level of expertise required. And the part of it that we hope will be the most useful for you is that it's interactive. So, we informally called this Repro Yelp, actually. So we tried to build it and model it off Yelp, although I have to tell you, obviously it's not as beautiful, just because, we don't have web developers just to make things beautiful, unfortunately, not yet, at least. But the idea is that when you do a course, you can also rate that course and comment on it so that other people that try it can kind of see what you thought as a rehab researcher. So you could say, like, this was a good basic course on Python, but it wasn't very useful for me. And I do research on cerebral palsy and movement and kinematics, or something like that. And that way people can start to browse and get a feel for like what courses are going to be really helpful for them or not. Within ReproRehab DB, we also have listed all the open source data sets that we could find. And so those are also going to be available with some short, brief descriptions. And we really encourage people also to rate these databases and open source data sets, rate them, and also put comments on them. So like if you're having any issues with them, you can put comments there. And hopefully whoever creates these data sets can look there for any feedback. But also it helps other people to know like kind of what good data sets might be for different use cases. And then finally, ReproRehab DB is also modifiable, so you can add new courses or you can add new data sets. So if you're releasing a data set and you put it on Open Science Framework, for instance, we really encourage you to also list it and add it to ReproRehab DB so that other people can know about it and find it, and also give you feedback on it. And the same thing for courses. If you're teaching an online course and you have some videos that you would be willing to share about some area or domain that you're an expert in, we would love it and really encourage you to add it to our database. If you have any questions about that, reach out to us at reprorehab@gmail.com, and we will be happy to work with you on that. But we're really hoping that this will be kind of a nice one-stop shop that combines resources from all across the web into one place, specifically for the rehabilitation research community. Okay, so I think that's it for now. There's going to be a lot more videos, a lot of introductions. I think, like I said before, our biggest goal is just to help the rehab research community know kind of that there is a community and there is a lot of enthusiasm around applying data science to our research to make it more powerful, more shareable, and more reproducible. And so we are really excited that you're here to join us. We welcome any feedback, and we look forward to hopefully hearing from many of you. All right, thank you so much and have a great day.